This is the Montana Outdoor Podcast, brought to you in part by Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer in Missoula, home of Boss Snowplows, CM Truck Beds, and Diamond Sea Trailers. Just go to rmtte.com for more information. And by Superior Hardwoods of Montana, home of the largest selection of in-stock high-end wood products and flooring in the western United States. Let them guide you through the woods at superior-hardwoods.com. Now, get ready for more fascinating topics and the most interesting people you will ever find in Montana's great outdoors. We offer new podcasts most every Saturday. You can get a link to these podcasts by going to our website, montanooutdoor.com, or by going to our Facebook page, or just send an email to Downrigger at montanooutdoor.com and say send a link to my email. It's that simple. Now let's head out with your host, Downrigger Dale, and see what's going on in Montana's great outdoors.
Hello, everyone. Downrigger Dale here on the Montana Outdoor Podcast. You know, every Saturday, we try to bring you interesting characters and folks that really make the outdoors of Montana probably the most special place in the world. This podcast, you're going to meet somebody that, well, I don't know what to say. Here's a guy that probably is one of the most knowledgeable fishermen in the world, has access to one of the most famous blue ribbon trout streams in the world. The list goes on and on. Of course, with me is the captain. And Captain, you've been working with this guest and fishing with this guest and that for a very long time. And why don't you tell us a little bit about our famous guest here?
Well, I tell you, I've known John Perry. I actually know him as a mountain man because he's a tall fella. And just like any earth settling deal, his body has actually settled down to the middle of his, but he's still big. He's big. He's a big guy. He's called the mountain man. He knows everything and anything when it comes to the rivers in western Montana, when it comes to fly fishing in Montana, and he also knows how to hunt. And so he's an outfitter for all of these things. He has a lodge down in Superior, and he also has a fly tying business that is internationally known, and he can catch you. I mean, show you how to catch. He can catch you. He can show you how to catch smallies, northerns, and large trout. This guy is unbelievable. Plus, he's entertaining, and we're going to find out about him right now. John, welcome to the Montana Outdoor Podcast. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you, guys.
John is a guy that, let's talk about, I mean, there's so many different things we can talk about. Let's talk about what do you want to talk about first? You want to talk about the fly tying? You want to talk about the rivers? What do you want to talk about?
Yeah, maybe we start with the materials because, you know, I mean, a lot of people listen to spin fishermen. I'm a spin fisherman too. I mean, just like you guys, I love all kinds of fishing. But we'll talk about materials. So the predator fly fishing materials, they're going to be awesome for big fish. And Doug Brewer from Fly Tyers Dungeon and I have come up with some awesome, incredible things. And he's been working in that particular business for years. And he sells bulk mostly to Europe and a lot of places in Missoula. In Missoula, but actually I meant the U.S. And what they do, he sells bulk, and they look at it and they package it and put their own name on it. And he's very good with that. And if they have ideas for any different colors that they want, he comes up with it. He's kind of like, he is literally the mad scientist. And he has like a factory.
Let me ask you something. When you say predator fly fishing, that's the materials. That's the name of the company, correct?
Yeah, that's okay. Predator Fly Fishing. It's a company with it. You know, it gets into a lot of trout stuff. You know, that's the smaller end of it. But the predator fly fishing is usually a bigger fish, the predator fish. Predators like that we love to go after. I don't go after muskie, but he does, and I think he gets his butt kicked maybe once every 10,000 fish to cast. He might have a hit somewhere. I don't know where he goes, but I'd rather go after the northerns because there's northerns. I won't mention any areas because some people will shoot me, but you know the central eastern part of it. I'm not mentioning a secret if I mention Fort Peck. That's not a secret, right. But a lot of those guys are unbelievably great fishermen. Those spin fishermen, bait fishermen, but like we do, we get a lot of. I'm constantly learning, and I get I have a lot of friends that are competitive fishermen, competitive walleye fishermen over there in a couple other states.
But you came from the Midwest, you came from North Dakota, and you cut your teeth really on the Clark Fork River, the Blackfoot River, and Rock Creek. So our family, I was born in Bismarck, but we have Eastern Montana connections, and then a lot of the family that we have and relatives that I didn't know about till recently, until my brother mentioned. But we got a lot of relatives around, actually by the Blackfoot Reservation. Augusta Shoto made a few phone calls. They've invited me to go out. I have relatives in the central part of the state with ranches and stuff. So, I love to pull the trigger, and we have a lot of fun doing that stuff too. Duck Lake up in Blackfoot?
Yeah, duck and goose and McGee, and I don't have a permit for there, and I would like to fish that. I'd hire one of those guides up there because they know what's going on. But for me personally, I love the wind. Right. And now if it gets to 40, 50, I don't like it. But, we can tolerate 20, 25 as an outfitter.
You're talking about wind, not wind, W-I-N.
Yeah,
wind.
W-I-N-D, because it gets unbelievably windy up there. But there's monster fish, and you can catch them with a fly rod or spinning rod. But a lot of people that aren't quite adept at understanding how to really cast it's kind of a technical thing. But with practice, you can cast directly into a 20-mile-an-hour wind. With practice casting.
In fly fishing.
Fishing. Oh, yes.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow. I would love to learn that.
I've seen, in fact, he did it to me 40 years ago, however long it was, where you have duct tape. And you tie.
Well, that's a long time ago.
Is that a long time ago? You don't use the duct tape anymore?
That was for teaching you, and that's actually when you had a hair on your head, too, if you remember.
Yeah. He pulled most of that out just fishing with me. It just drove me nuts.
Right. Actually hanging around you is what, so let's say.
It fell onto your back.
You have permits. We're talking, and I didn't mention this. John is an outfitter.
Yeah.
I mean, a very successful outfitter, and he's been doing it for a number of years.
Yeah. Some of the most famous people in the world have come here and directly want to fish with this guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, but he also runs a bunch of guides, too.
Yeah.
Right.
And so you do all that stuff, John. When I fish with you, one of the things that old Doug Persico, the late, great Doug Persico from Rock Creek Fisherman's Mercantile, we fished with John, and we always flipped a coin to see who would be in the front of the boat. You never wanted to be in the front of the boat when John is oaring, because he is on your you-know-what all day long.
First I ask, I've mellowed since then. I ask people now, I'm going to, in the first couple hours, if they're beginners, I'll say, okay, I'm going to give you some advice and whatnot. Now, if I'm giving you too much advice, let me know in a kind way. Don't wait until 3 hours later and tell me. So anyway, some of my guys have come to me and talked to me about that, but that's because I have, honest to God, never met anybody more passionate about the mountains and streams of Montana. The guides think I'm nuts.
You mean you've never met anybody like yourself?
Like, with the passion that I have, I'm not saying I'm the best, but I have never met anybody that loves it, because we are fishing in a created world, God's creation, and we're loving it.
And you could take it wrong if you're in the front of the boat, where he's actually mad at you, because what he'll do is he'll say, Captain, over there, 11 o'clock, right next to that, right behind that swirl, right behind that. No, and sorry, Johnny. And then he's right 100% of the time. Mm-hmm. There's always a fish. If you hit it right, there's always a fish there. He knows how to fish those rivers. If you want to know and have a great time, by the way, this is a guy you want to go out with, because he ties his own flies. He knows the river. I remember one time there was a guy that wanted to be a guide, and he wanted to work for John. And so John says, well, the only way you're going to be able to even think about working under my license is you got to go fishing with me. And I happened to be with him when he took this guy out. That was I felt so sorry for that guy, because he was rowing the boat and John was in the front. You remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and if he screwed up, I don't know if he ever hired the guy.
Well, listen to this.
I don't know if he ever quit crying, actually.
Do you remember? Is that the time we kind of flipped? Yeah, we flipped.
Could have been.
Let me tell you about this guy. I won't mention his name. This guy, he persevered. He kept on going, and he's a friend of mine. He's an awesome guide and outfitter now, and I really respect. He lives in the Bitterroot. He knows who I'm talking about. He's a great man, just a great man. Never gave up. He has a loving family, loving wife. They're very passionate. He kind of doesn't guide as much more. He's kind of, he's going into different avenues. But this, I call him young. He's probably 45-ish, 50. That's young. Well, actually, me and you and Downrigger and Jack Benny were all only 39. If you remember that, Jack Benny. So, no, he's an excellent guide and an excellent person. So he did not give up.
Okay, that's good. We're happy for him.
Yes.
Yeah. And he only had a few years of therapy. And,
So let's talk about. Let's get back to these flies. How can they buy a fly that you tie?
Yeah, my personal flies, I'm not going to mention prices and whatnot because they vary. But some of the streamers,
It depends on how much money you have or something? Or?
Yeah, the richer you are, the more I'm going to charge.
Perfect.
That's the same deal at McDonald's when they see somebody, right? They see some millionaire come in and they put a zero on that double cheeseburger.
And by the way, McDonald's will never be a sponsor of our podcast.
we just lost that
John.
one. So, no
Right.
problem.
So how do they buy the flies? They go on a website, I assume.
It's usually word of mouth, sometimes off my johnperryflyfishing.com website. I don't look at my own site, but they'll contact me, say I'd like some flies. But I had 11 surgeries in the past 2.5 years. So the old mountain man, through all the years of hard
it's hard on your body.
guiding and outfitting, plus 2 serious car accidents where I should have gone to heaven, but God didn't want me there yet. He wanted me here so I can bother people more.
And you've done a good job of that. You're doing a good job of bothering people. No, actually, so John,
I'm a professional botherer.
So most people that come on our podcast usually have a website. Do you have a website, John?
Yeah.
Well, I have several. Which one?
JohnPerryFlyFishing.com, right?
Okay.
JohnPerryFlyFishing.com, and then we have another one, but we GoDaddy has kind of captured it. Wants me to buy back it, so it's so we're going a different route.
No, Daddy. That's
they were really good, but 10 years ago. But we're steering away, and he'll beep that off anyway.
So we lost the GoDaddy sponsorship.
Yeah, GoDaddy will never sponsor us.
You
That's
want
okay.
to, believe me.
So you got a phone number. I mean, I just want to throw this out right now. If somebody's listening to the podcast and I go, I want to talk to John, what's your number? How do they get a hold of you?
406-370-9183. Talk about hunting, fishing. If we can't do it or you're going to a different area, I have outfitter friends all over the state, and they are great. I recommend people to them. They recommend people to me. I have another outfitter associate that does the Missouri River, and he has connections with these ranchers. He's a gun guy, and he sells pistols, and he just is hit a home run with a niche. He brings the people in, and these are shooters, a lot of military, ex-military people, and
Really?
they hunt prairie dogs and gophers, and he awesome. So I'm heading to Fort Peck the 8th and 9th, and I talked with this other fellow of May soon, and then he said, John, you're on your way up there. Come. I said, we had some cancellations. The deposit is there, and you could have Sam take you. Now, Sam works for this guy and me, and he's an excellent guide. He represents him, and he represents me. But they're into shooting, and they all have the guns, different ranges, the bullets, everything. And
you will be in hog heaven when it comes to
I know, buddy. Hunting all those, my relatives that had those eastern Montana ranches, hunting those great ranches for prairie dogs. That was fun when I was, But nowadays, I wouldn't dare eat those backstraps, man, because they got a disease.
Why? What disease?
I don't know.
Somebody,
yeah. Well, in order to remember the old days, you get the backs. You'd have to have, you have to bet 100 doggone
prairie dogs.
That's because you're not the mountain man.
Well, maybe you wouldn't have so many surgeries if you stay away from the back straps of the prairie
I haven't
dogs.
eaten those in probably 40 years.
Yeah, well, it shows.
Yeah.
If anybody would like to send
nice big beef burgers.
If anyone listening to this podcast would like to send John some food, he would probably know.
Well, the thing
again,
is,
that's why you're called the Mountain Man. Exactly.
Right. But as I said, I was telling Mark earlier, and you heard it, Don, that the mountain used to be in the shoulders and the chest, and that's kind of settled down. And I told Mark it's kind of like a ship on a small island where it's kind of stuck. So the mountain is stuck, but I got, I actually have breeding hips, so it's stuck on my breeding hips.
It's actually a big island.
Yeah, it's a big island. The mountain is rested upon that.
Yeah. So John,
yes, sir.
Trying to get you back to task here. You specialize in trout. Now you have a bunch of permits on the local rivers here in western Montana. One of the rivers, which is extremely popular, is Rock Creek. And you were telling me before we went on the air here at the podcast that you sold out all of your trips. You only have X number of trips to use. Sold them out in December.
Well, what we did is the demand. We are permitted. We have 50% of the permits. There's three outfitter entities that own the permits. Well, that have the permits. And
this is for Rock Creek.
Yeah, this is for Rock Creek, Lolo National Forest, and everything that we talk about, every advertisement, every card, everything I have to mention. We are permitted by the United States Forest Service. I have to mention that everywhere that we're permitted on Lolo National Forest, and we're permitted for Rock Creek, Lolo. And then the Missoula Ranger District and the Superior Plains District and then the Thompson Falls and Plains District. Mm-hmm. So we got the permits loaded down there, and it's fun. So we do a lot of the I know I have written down here, but I want to get into the flathead too. I won't mention it too much because I could get shot. But the smallies down there, it is world class. They're not that big, but some of the spin fishing guys I know, like Terry Baldwin, he's showing me pictures. He owns Baldwin Fitness here in Missoula. He has shown me pictures of some of these monster smallies that he caught.
Yeah, I have heard that the smallmouth fishing
it's ridiculous.
Is on fire.
Yes,
let's talk.
But we don't guide on that. But that's just for fun because that's on tribal land.
Well, it's you can catch them off at tribal land,
right? We can guide the Lord down by Plains and Thompson Falls if you have a jet boat. Right, I mean, or a motorboat. That's the best way to do it.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk a little bit about Rock Creek here to start with, because to describe, because we don't have just people that listen to this podcast in Montana. We have people that listen all over the world. In fact, we're now up to consistently about 7 different countries. Consistently are downloading this podcast and growing. What makes Rock Creek so special? Why is it one of the blue ribbon trout streams in the world?
I'll tell you what, it honestly is. Number one, it is a true freestone river. People on the radio listening to this that fly fish understand it. Most fishermen understand it. Now, a tailwater like the Missouri River or the Bighorn, those are great rivers, but they're good because of a man-made dam and because everything's more constant. The insects are constant, everything, and those are fun too. So my in-the-pocket tailwater is the Missouri River because I grew up on it. Grew up fishing around Great Falls, down in Great Falls, and then, of course, I grew up fishing the tailwater in North Dakota, but where you don't talk about inches, they're 5 to 10 freaking pounders, But anyway, I get too excited about everything. Rock Creek is here's the deal. Rock Creek, that little creek, has about 23 to 2,500 trout per mile. Wow, that's awesome for a freestone. And tells you the truth, guys. So I'm big time into entomology, which is the study of insects. I'm big time into ornithology, big time into dendrology. So as I guide, I also want to show more of the created world, like the trees, because I love the trees. And so the more you know about each thing and what insects come off of each tree, not just aquatic insects, but the terrestrials. Terrestrial being of the earth, like what type of caterpillars come off this tree at what time. So all that stuff, I got microscopes and, like I said, some of the other guides think I'm a nutcase.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I've heard that.
Yeah. Well,
but understanding what the fish are looking for and what the bugs feed on that the fish feed on, and so on and so on. Now you're understanding that special trout that you're trying to get to.
Right. Now, going back to Rock Creek. Rock Creek has a very healthy population of browns. It has a very healthy population of rainbows and rainbow cutthroat hybrids. and right now it's kind of the spawning season for rainbows and cuts, right? But a lot of them are mainstream spawners. That means they spawn in the stream. But other fish will go up little creeks and spawn. And then a lot of the bulls that are up there will chase them and go up and munch. So I've been asked this question a lot when we're on Rock Creek, and we might be fishing like mid-June, right? So a lot of clients will, I'll preface that with this. They will book 2 days in a row because we have a lot of local clients, and they know, okay, we're going to hit it here, and then the hatch is going to be, the salmon fly hatch is going to be up the creek, so we're going to hit it, 2 weeks from now too. So when we come in and they're catching, skinny fish, right? They'll look at the fish and the fish are skinny, right? That's because they just spawned. Other times, 2 days later, they might be out there in a different section of the river, and there's all these fish are fat. And there are two reasons. They're fat because they haven't spawned yet, right? And the other reason is they gorge themselves so much on those salmon fly. I kid you not. So I like to eat fish. Mostly rivers, like we catch and release. But I like to actually love myself to go on a little lake with a simple bobber and a worm because I enjoy it, and I love crappie, sunfish, all that. I love to eat fish. Captain will test. I keep begging him to bring walleyes to me.
What do you say to me when you want me to bring you fish? What do you say?
Walleye. I say mountain man hungry.
Well, we're going to take a little break here. And when we come back, John, think about this while the captain and I talk about one of our great sponsors. But let's talk a little bit about different times of the year and why people want to consider those times and that to go fishing with you. So think about that, and we'll be back with you in a minute. But Captain, let's talk about an interesting thing that just happened with you with one of our sponsors.
Well, Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailers in Missoula, and Josh and the whole family, they own the place. Well, I bought a Chevrolet pickup from Missoula Chevrolet 3 years ago.
Right.
And I had a Reese trailer hitch, and I had the top of it, but they didn't have the frame to put underneath the frame of my pickup bed.
Yeah, that's what has to.
So
attach
it keeps it attached. So anyway, what I ended up doing, I just forgot about it because I kept my fifth wheel. That's where I stay over at the Fort Peck headquarters. Well, now. Bernie, she wants to go traveling.
Your wife, yeah.
Yeah, and she wants to go to in January, February, and that type of thing. So I had to get a fifth wheel hitch on. Well, they don't make the Reese's one anymore. Long story short, it's 2004. They don't make that deal anymore as far as the bottom part for the hitch that I have. So it's worthless. So I called Josh. I said, Josh, do you have hitches? Now, I'm an advertiser for him. And he goes, what do you think? It's Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer. I sell trailers. And of course, he says, I do B&W. It's actually a reversible gooseneck ball. And then you it's called a companion hitch. They put it on there. And I'll be darned if he says, yeah, I can do that. I said, well, I want to schedule an appointment. And I'm figuring I'm the captain. Well, I know Josh, and Josh knows me. And I figured, he
you're thinking that you're going to be treated special, I see.
Well, he's going to push somebody else aside, what he's going to do.
No, they don't.
I couldn't talk him into it. So it's 30 days out. That's how far out they're busy. And the reason why they're busy, the reason why people are busy, the reason why John is busy, they do a good job. Like at his business and the fly fishing business, he does a good job. Josh does a great job. So June 1, I'm going to get that on, and I'll be telling people about, how good of a job he did. And by the way, I did shop the price a little bit, and I shouldn't even say this on the podcast because Josh would probably bump it up, but he beat the closest one by a few $100s.
Well, but that's back to what we've been saying about Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer for a long time. They're just straight up honest, good people.
Yeah.
They use the product they sell and all that, and that's why you get a good price, not just because it's you, but anybody.
Well, I like to think it's because of me. Diamond Sea Trailers and Accessories, that's what they sell. They also sell CM truck beds. Just check them out. Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer. Josh, their website is tte.com.
Okay.
Good folks, and I'm glad they're helping us out with the podcast. Let's get back to John.
Yeah. So, John, we were talking about Rock Creek. And,
can I say a little more about Rock Creek?
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
I want to have you go over for folks that are listening all around the world and here in Montana too. Let's talk a bit about what are the key times that people should consider booking a trip with you and seeing and fishing on Rock Creek.
Okay. The month that we mostly push, of course, for floating is June, because floating for everybody fishing from a boat ends, whether you're private or an outfitter, right, at the end of June. And I understand that, because as the water drops, the CFS level, that's cubic feet per second, as that drops, and it gets too low, number one, you wouldn't want to float, because you'd be bothering, getting out, you'd be bothering people that are up there wade fishing. And it's that the outfitters and guides, the honorable ones, are the most courteous people of everywhere. And, and we constantly, pick up garbage. We constantly do not fish in front of them. We pull the boat on the opposite side and don't run into them at all. And, and we ask how they're doing. They ask how we're doing, and we usually say, hey, a little slow, but, we had an awesome lunch, because that way they don't feel like, we're catching 1,000 fish, and they're not doing well, so that they feel disadvantaged, but they're not at a disadvantage.
And you throw them out sticker bars, too. You throw them a sticker bar. Butterfingers, little ones, though, like the Halloween type.
Oh, yeah.
Just throws them out to them.
Yeah. Feeding people as he goes along, catching all the trout.
Well, I don't throw it. I
Yeah.
actually anchor the boat. We talk and we give them some good stuff.
So the best times of the year, you're saying, is, again, June, did you say?
Well, for outfitting for June and floating, that's an excellent time, because we're catching a world famous hatch called the salmon fly hatch. It's a huge, and we have 3-year-old salmon fly on Rock Creek.
What do you mean?
3-year-old. Well, they're a 3-year-old fly. They're in the river basically 3 years. Yeah. So there was a Dr. Sheldon from the University of Montana, and his son and another guy were kind of pals of mine, younger than me, and I took them fishing and hunting. But Dr. Sheldon wasn't a fisherman, but he was one of the world's leading experts on that salmon fly in the world. And he did studies on up and down Rock Creek, and I learned a lot from him. And he learned a lot from us, because he didn't fish, so understand. And he'd have nets and capture the salmon flies, see how they're doing. Very, very neat. If you look at the size of the salmon fly, the female is much, much larger than the male, right? Because of the eggs and whatnot. If you go to places like the Madison and I think and the Blackfoot. The Blackfoot has a lot of 4 or 5-year-olds, and they're even bigger.
Is that the upper Blackfoot, or all over the Blackfoot?
It's all over the Blackfoot, but the Blackfoot has a terrific salmon fly hatch too, and of course we hit that. So if a group is out here for 4 or 5 days, a group of 4 boats, and we'll hit Rock Creek, and then if it's a kind of the Blackfoot's turned on, especially when it's turned on in kind of a hazy, cloudy day, watch out. We just say, hey guys, let's do this for a bit. And, it might be great one day on the Blackfoot, and the next day, you have another group of guys, and all of a sudden the salmon flies are still out there, but you get that ultra first sunny day after a cloudy day on the Blackfoot. It could be poor fishing. And but on Rock Creek, those hot sunny days, salmon fly, that's great.
But the problem is that you sell out your trips in December, so there's nothing available. For example, this year.
Well, we have, but we still do the upper Blackfoot. I mean, or upper Rock Creek. We still have take people there, and we don't have any guides available right now. I don't think. To do that, because the guides, I cherry pick and I get the guides early. So a lot of the guides I work with, they're all independent contractors, but I have an association and friends, 4 or 5 other outfitters, and they have other businesses that kind of slightly overlap mine, but they utilize the guides. Like I got a great friend. He's like a brother. His name's Joe, and he by far, their business is by far the best. Because they got the highest quality guys, unbelievably organization on the Smith River.
Yeah, Joe is good.
So for for people that want to fish Rock Creek and be able to tap into your knowledge and that, they want to think about this at least a year in advance.
Well, generally I say, a lot of people, as soon as they get off, like I have a couple of groups that own big places on Rock Creek, and they take their business associates or as a reward, they take them. They stay at their private lodges, nothing that, it's their own private thing that they offer that to their people that work with them and kind of reward them. And they'll one guy does 3 boats for 2 days, a day off, and he gets, other people fly in that odd day and then another. And he does that in June, July, August, September, sometimes October, but not all Rock Creek. But Rock Creek, I wanted to talk a little more about the spawning. Mm-hmm. So the higher the elevation, right? These are generalizations, okay? Nothing is just set in stone. The higher the elevation on a river system or a lake, and the more cutthroat a fish has, the later they spawn. Generalizations. Okay. So another thing, when you get the spawning of a pure rainbow, a lot of those could be done. Those rainbows will start spawning in January, actually, on some different rivers. Oh, they'll spawn. Yeah. The amazing thing is this. Just everything. What I like about it, it's no specific thing. And what I coined a phrase years ago. I call it tag team spawning, because you get a group in of fish, they're spawning, and 3 days later, there's a fresh patch of fish out here to catch. It's like, because you don't plant the rivers. Right. There's rivers you don't plant them in Montana anymore. You plant the lakes, but the initial stocking, what we called it, but they took off and they do very well in reproduction.
Well, maybe you go to GoDaddy and say, how about you give me a website, tagteamspawning.com, or .net. Tagteamspawning.net.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
The captain, he can kind of tink sometimes.
Sometimes, yep. So let's talk about the fact that they miss the fact that they can go out with you.
Well,
you will call them. I mean, they can call you, and you'll give them pointers. In fact, your place is right out there. Going to Rock Creek.
Oh, yeah.
And they can stop by. You'd sell them some flies.
No, I don't.
Oh, you don't?
No. What we do, Rock Creek fish. We want the people to buy flies there because they know what's going on too. And Johnny fishes, and Johnny's really taken the reins on that fly shop, and he's starting to have a passion for fly fishing, and I love it. And in fact, he possibly may be a wade fishing guide. He talked about it, but him and his wife live there, and they got a cute little kid. But that Rock Creek Mercantile is kind of an old fashioned fly shop. I like the flavor of it because it's not like walking into some shop that looks like it's in downtown New York or something. They talk, they have coffee. Yeah, during the winter, they have a round table.
People that live right on the river. And
we work together. Mm-hmm. And they have some rods that I say, they got second and third rate rods in terms of this. They have excellent quality rods, but if a person breaks a rod, and so they'll have a setup available most of the time, because people break rods all the time, and you always want a second, third rod with. So even though the clients will bring their own favorite rods, all the guides will have 2, 3, 4 rods. They'll have 3 or 4 in the car and another 2 or 3 in the boat, extra rods.
Describe a rod that's ideal for, let's say, a guy like me that does. I do more lake fishing, with walleyes and stuff. Right. What kind of a rod would you recommend for me?
Well, it sounds funny. I would recommend a 9-foot 5-weight rod.
Okay.
And medium action.
Let me write this down.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, I'll tell you. Yeah, a 9-foot 5-weight rod, medium action. Mm-hmm. Because most of the stuff that you would be doing probably is throwing a bigger fly and probably fishing with me. And you wouldn't want a real long leader. But for that heavier line on the medium, that allows you so you don't have to false cast so much. You kind of bring it up when you float Rock Creek, Downrigger. It's like a Star Wars game sometimes, and you're hitting pockets. Pick it up there. If they don't hit it right out there, boom, pick it up, slam. I mean, it's fun. It's like partridge hunting. And that is Rock Creek. And let me get back to this. There are people all over the world. They fish New Zealand and they fish Europe. They salmon fish. They have some of the guys have lodges in Central America, and I get invited. I don't feel like flying. I'm content with Montana, but these guys come to Rock Creek specifically for that, to catch 12 to 16, 17-inch fish, and every now and then a huge brown or an 18, 19 beautiful, pure cutthroat, which is just, it's so aesthetic. That little creek has so many trout per mile. It is amazing.
Okay, so John, I'm going to blow your horn a little bit. You are internationally known. Explain to the folks your history about, you mentioned countries like New Zealand and that.
Right.
I mean, a lot of folks in this business, and you got great connections, and your flies are all over the place. The Bugmeister.
Nightmares, Transformers. Yeah, they're all over, and a lot of them different names. And a lot I don't want to, they're just specifically for clients.
Okay.
But no, they're good. And a lot of my, the guides, some of the guides that I know, another guy, Tommy G, I'll call him. He's one of the most pleasurable guides to go fishing with. A lot of time when we go fish, we're just laid back, but he's an avid bird hunter too, like I am. And he's a big guy from Maine. He's an excellent fly target.
Tommy G is the name.
I won't mention the last name. He might shoot me, or sit on me, because he weighs about 500 pounds. He's bigger than I am. Oh, yeah.
He's that big.
Yeah, he's only 5'8", too. Well, I mean, there's nothing
funny. Did you guys
funny.
meet at the Golden Corral or what?
No, I mean, the thing is, when we go out, and I'll have like a huge steak, he'll order the cow.
Yeah.
When he sits around the river, he sits around the river. Let's talk a bit about fly fishing itself. Now, a lot of people saw a river runs through it and they went, wow. I mean, there was scenery in that movie, and watching the Brad Pitt character, pitching a fly, and you just go, oh my God, that's amazing. Is it really that hard to do?
It depends. It's funny because it depends on each person. I have kind of a unique way of teaching people, and I used to teach at the Learning Center a lot, right? And I enjoyed it. I did that for 15 years. So I taught fly tying in the winter and then fly casting in the spring. And I loved it. And whenever I got somebody that kind of got it right away, if they overloaded me with 12 to 15 people, it's hard in 2.5 hours to do it. And then a 3-week period, 2.5 hours each time, somebody get it, some wouldn't, but eventually most would. So you have to, if you're a spin and bait casting fisherman and you're a strong guy and one of those guys that think I'm a macho guy, you're at a disadvantage.
Right.
The best way to teach those guys is, okay, what hand do you cast? Right. Okay. How do you cast a spinning rod? They show me and I said, okay, that's fine. Okay, grab the fly rod with the left hand. What? With the left hand. You're going to begin with the left hand. And they don't quite understand until they get the brain right, what the hand is doing with their right hand and what I'm telling them to do with the right hand. If they're a spin cat, they think they're doing what I'm telling them, but they're not, because they're not. Yes, yeah. But they really think. They'll say, "I can't do this. I can't do." They really think, and they're very mechanically robotic looking with their left hand if they're right-handed. But once they get the rhythm and simple exercises that work, and they get that mechanic and they do it the simple pick up and put down, and put down, and then we graduate to the second level, the third level, the fourth level, and they understand it. Give them a 15-minute break. During that 15-minute break, I show them knots. I show them knots, simple knots, like the improved clinch knot or just a clinch knot or the blood knot. Very simple, necessary knots. Women, a lot of times, athletic women are excellent. You wouldn't believe this. I'll tell this quick story. Years ago, I was teaching, and you had this softball group of ladies, 4 or 5 of them, and they were in a tournament. And the better they played, the more they advanced. And they came to the session twice, right? And there was one lady that looked like an Amazon lady, right? I mean, she's like 6'2", and very attractive looking lady. And she was a pitcher. And I equated what they do, eye-hand coordination with that. And she, after the first 2.5 hours, she was throwing the entire fly line on the lawn.
Wow. The entire
very smoothly.
line?
The entire, it's a 90-foot line. And then you have a lot of backing and another 10, 15 feet of backing. And she did that after about an hour and a half. So the next
knew that finesse and
but she knew the rhythm to stop. And it's you know what it is? It's the rod. It's the rhythm, the timing, and the rod. And then that's incorporated with power. Just like if people are very good golfers or tennis players, first of all, the grip. You don't grip that hard. It's the same grip on a fly rod. You don't grip it hard. It's a very light grip. You get that just teach the fundamentals. She got it right off the bat, so I made her my assistant. And she liked that. And that helped her because she had to, in her own language, instruct others what she's doing. So I might talk to a person that is a basketball player, right, that is a good free throw shooter. I might talk to him differently than I would talk to a guy that plays golf, because the golf swing, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Same with what I do. I jokingly say this when I have true blondes out there. You know, I'll tell everybody that the timing is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'll walk up to the blondes and say, your timing is 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So only their friends get it. The blondes don't get it.
Well, when I first learned to fly fish, my grandpa taught me, and I would watch him, and I mean, he could just do all kinds of incredible stuff. And I thought, okay, well, he's finally going to take me, so I'm going to get to take his big rod and do all this stuff. And he said, no. He said, Junior, here's what you got. And he gave me just a bamboo pole with
rod
line, just with line tied on the end of it. And I said, well, where's the reel? All that. And he said, that's what you're going to work with. And all I want you to concentrate on is putting the fly where I tell you to put it. And we started there. And you learn that finesse, that it's not all about how hard you're doing all that. You're reading the wind, you're feeling all this stuff. And eventually he got me to where I got to use one of his rods with the reel and all that. But it was so interesting how he taught me to do it, because he said, there's no reason for you to even mess with any of that till you get yourself under control, get your head in the game, and learn how to just place that fly where you want it to go. And I was hooked ever since then.
Let me, no pun intended. Let me get this straight. You have a Amazon-looking softball pitcher that's fairly attractive that knows what she's doing, and you make her, you're the instructor, you make her your assistant.
Didn't make her. I'd grab her hand and say, you're doing great. These two people need help. Just show them how to do what you're doing in her own language. But
do a little teammate stuff.
That helps, because when she's teaching, that helps cement what she learned into her head. So that made her even better.
How long did you date this woman after that? I mean, that sounds like a heck of a come-on line for an instructor, to say, would you like to be my assistant?
Buddy, I go after men. Cut.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
And not that there's anything wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, that's why most of my personal clients come from San Francisco. Cut.
Okay, John, when we come back, we want to talk about, there's tall. In fact, there's tall people. In fact, I ate at a restaurant in Hobson. It's called Too Tall men or something like that.
I wasn't with you. I don't
tall
know.
Boys, tall men.
Tall boys, yeah.
Yeah, tall boys. And we know a midget.
Oh,
I want to find out what kind of rod the midget you
Little
would recommend.
people is what they like to go by.
What's that?
Little people.
Well, yeah. This is a midget. Is Doug Stewart, and everybody knows Doug.
No, that guy's not. I thought you were talking about the real midget. No, Doug is a skit guy that does skits with us. His nickname's the midget.
He's a midget skit guy. Anyway, when we come back, but I want to talk about my buddy John, who is not a midget. John is a hardwood floor guy. He's at Superior Hardwoods, and his son Corey and Shannon, they all do a great job there. In fact, at Lewistown, when we moved to Lewistown, we were looking at putting hardwood floors into the house. Now, Bernie and I, we don't agree on a lot of things, but we walked into Superior Hardwoods, and you know how they have all these different patterns. I mean, hundreds and hundreds of patterns of what do they call it? Refurbished?
Repurposed wood,
floor. And she said, which one do you like? And I said, I like that one right there. She goes, so do I. It took us like 5 seconds. So we actually decided on it, and it is unbelievable. In fact, when people come into our home, and you two guys have not been invited for obvious reasons, but when they come into...
I haven't got the invitation. Have you, John? You probably haven't.
He puts me in the barn.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He sleeps in the shop. It's heated. You know, it's fine.
Oh, that's nice.
So they come in and they go, who did these floors? And I tell them about it. And that's just one of the many things that you can experience from John. In fact, speaking of Superior Hardwoods, in Hobson, they got 2 elevators. I'm going to find out if they're for sale because they
talk about grain elevators.
Yeah, grain elevators right next to...
I used to live in one. Remember that?
You did?
The warehouse. Yeah. I rented from Doug Stewart. I lived on top of the grain elevator.
Yeah, rented the grain elevator. Yeah.
Grain. I loved it.
Yeah. So anyway, it's Superior Hardwoods. You got the message. They're in Missoula. They're across from Peak Fitness Center, which none of us ever go into. Peak Fitness Center, that is. They're located across the highway from Peak. The big dome. Looks like they just landed a bunch of UFOs over there.
Yeah. Well, and they love what they do. And that's what I love about them is they're passionate about what they do. It's like nothing you've ever seen at Superior Hardwoods of Montana. Go see them in Missoula and go to the website, too.
Yes, I'm the website guy. Superior Hardwoods.
It's that hyphen thing there.
Yeah, dash. It's horizontal, not
slash, but dash.
Dash. Superior Hardwoods, superior-hardwoods.com. Yeah, good people.
You'll love them. Yeah. So back to our guest, John Perry, the mountain man. We've been talking a lot about Rock Creek, and then we got on the whole subject of the passion and the finesse of fly fishing and all that. Let's spend a little time here about fly tying, and that's an art. The way I look at it, I mean, I've tried it many times. I can't even figure it out. Do you find that most avid, hardcore fly fishermen tie their own flies, or do most of them just say, I'm going to leave it to the pros like you?
A mixture, a big mixture. So here's the deal. So we live in Montana. So we have everything at our hands. We have flies to buy. We have materials to buy. We can tie flies and buy flies, right? Mm-hmm. And we can just hop in the car after a hard day of work, which, for other people, because my work is hard, but I love it. And you guys love what you do.
Oh, yeah.
But what I'm saying, these guys that live in the East, a lot of them, and they're really into entomology, and they're into speaking Latin, which I can speak their language because I had, 7 years of college, and my parents and everybody thought I was going to be a doctor, so I had, 4 years of Latin in high school. Mm-hmm. I'm just mentioning that because it is good, the foundations of Latin, the mother language for a lot of different languages. But if you know Latin and can speak it, we get very few people that speak that. But people from Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and New York that really get into it, and they're fishing themselves.
So knowing Latin helps with fly tying.
Of course.
Pick up women in the bar.
See, that's Russian.
Oh, that's Russian. Oh, Russian.
You're going to the wrong bar, buddy.
No wonder it'll get you women.
Yeah. Well, anyway, back to what were we talking about?
We were talking about tying flies. Of people that
right.
Say, well, if I'm going to be a true fly fisherman, then I have to tie my own flies.
It depends upon the interest. Here's what I find. People that are doctors, right? Medical people in the medical field that fly fish, when they're really getting into it, since they know Latin in the background, they really get into, remember the old saying, King David came over for ginger snaps when you're in high school? Kingdom division, over, order, for, family, genus, ginger, species, snaps. And then you got subspecies. That's easy to remember, those things. And then from genus to species, order, family, genus, species is what we really concentrate on. And then we break down the orders. What are the important orders for aquatic insects? Then we go, families. What are the families, genus, species? I don't want to talk about anybody's else's head, but the deal is those guys like that. So we get to do that. So they dream. They have pictures of their trip in Montana, and they sit there and they work their butt off. Dentist doctors or people like that, they get so intense. So since they're not in Montana, they dream, they work their butt off to try to get out here and come back. So they look at pictures of their experience and stuff, and they want to find more out about what kind of trees are, what's the elevation. They ask great questions. You know, I'm the only thing I'm really weak on is geology when they ask me questions. I got other guides that are great on that, but I'm big time into butterflies and moths. You know that. I've had Riker collections and stuff. And entomology, study of insects, I really dig it, and a lot of them dig it because it's interesting. It's interesting to kids, to teach kids that stuff. They like little living things and frogs and whatnot. And the people from the East, they're so excited to get out here and speak with somebody that knows their language. So if they need to do that, then I will talk to them. Other than that, it's instead of saying blah, blah, blah in Latin, you say, well, it's a size 14 yellowish olive golden stonefly. The stonefly, the order is Plecoptera, right? Which they would know, but just that size. Or today, you know, boy, we saw the big orange ones. You know, that's the salmon fly, Pteronarcis. You know, male or female. Well, what did you describe it? People really get into it, and the more you know about entomology and the Latin, the study of, then you'll know more about what exact sort of bug do you use, and to tie. So, for instance, you take the salmon fly, an adult female. Those salmon flies, just like in humans, you get some that are suntanned more than others, right?
Really?
In colors. Yeah. And just like salmon flies, they're not all bright orange. You look at some, and, you know, they're orangish, blackish. What you look at it, you study it, you tie like that. And then you make variations of that. And then some of the flies that you tie, right, when you're fishing this super heavy water, like on Rock Creek or the Blackfoot, and the salmon flies are out, and they're fluttering. They're fluttering on the water. The females are fluttering. You know what they're doing? They're laying their eggs. They're trying to kick those eggs off of them. When the males don't flutter near as much, but they're on the water, at the beginning of the salmon fly hatch, you don't see a lot of fluttering. You see, you know, somebody sees salmon flies on the bushes, you know, Rock Creek Mercantile reports it, or I report it. They'll report it to me, or vice versa, because I'm there every stinking morning. But so is Johnny. We're looking for him, and then we get excited about it. The beginning of the salmon fly hatch is when you shake that tree, right, and the water below it, and you don't see any fish coming after, that means, well, they're not quite in tune for it, or it's not the right time of the day. Because a lot of times those salmon flies go up there and they mate, right? And when the sun comes out and hits them and they warm up and they get that heat, then they fly. And by the thousands, it looks like, you know, you've seen the clouds of salmon flies going up a river. Now, that's the way God created it, to go up river, and that's where they lay their eggs. So there's a circle, right? Mm-hmm. There's a circle. They go up sometimes 10 miles, sometimes 20 miles.
Wow.
Boom, and they do that. And a lot of times people think, well, the hatch starts at the bottom of the creek. Generally, they do. That's a generalization, elevation-wise, in creeks, not just Rock Creek, but the Big Hole, Beaverhead, not the Beaverhead, excuse me, the Madison, Blackfoot, or the other rivers, you know, the freestones that have it.
Sure.
Right? And the neat thing, I'm kind of jumping around here, guys.
Yeah, you are.
But that's the way I tie. When you're getting back into the salmon flies, which is a stonefly, you're getting back into that stuff. And that order itself is a great indicator of a healthy stream, healthy river, healthy water.
Okay, so give us a time frame, and I know it's dependent on weather. When does the salmon fly hatch start on Rock Creek? And, of course, then it just moves up the river, correct?
Right. I'll give you a basic time frame. Okay, of when you're going to see the adult salmon flies. And the main trigger is length of daylight hours. That's the trigger, right?
Photo period, yeah.
That's, I could say that's the safety. You take the safety off, right? And it's water level, water temperature, once the water temperature, and then you get the sun, and then that's the trigger. So the safety's off, and you're ready to pull the trigger because it's ready to go. That could start May 25th, and you can see salmon flies up to July 20th at times, just little sprinkles of it. And on the Blackfoot, it's later. It starts, you know, it's usually 2 weeks later. But this year, I expect to see the salmon flies around June 1st, June 2nd, June 3rd. But I could be wrong. Just a guess. These are generalizations.
So when somebody books a trip with you, why would they book a trip, say, in May 20th when there's no salmon flies?
Well, I wouldn't want them to book Rock Creek.
Oh.
There's very little good fishing. I mean, these rivers are blown, so we have other destinations. Because remember that old cowboy show, Have Gun, Will Travel?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So we advertise ourselves, and I advertise myself as Have Boat, Will Travel. I'll drive all the way over to the Bighorn and fish if it's a number of days and fish with other outfitters.
So, John, we're running out of time here, and we have not covered half the stuff we want.
Back.
Yeah, we'll have you back. But I want to talk about this lodge real quick down there in Superior.
Yeah. No, it's actually
not Superior, but St. Regis.
I'll tell you where it is. Okay, you know where St. Regis is? It's designated. That portion of the Clark Fork of the Columbia is a national wild and scenic portion of the Clark Fork of the Columbia. Very special land. Now, I bought that land when I was a puppy. You know, remember the days when I was tall, skinny, rather athletic, and I had the frickin' afro? I get old and everything starts to go limp a bit.
Yeah.
You know,
you bought it way back then. When you were tall, when you were one of the tall boys.
Yeah.
Skinny boys.
Yeah. So the lodge down there, we cater to people that just go down there and they just hike. You know, you got one of the best bicycle trails from St. Regis down to 14 Mile that parallels the river.
Amazing.
Not Hiawatha.
No, I mean
that's great.
About.
That's great for families to rent bikes, families for 10-year-old, 12. But the bicycle trip, if you know what I'm talking about, it's gorgeous. Good chance of seeing elk, moose, bald eagles. You know,
this lodge though is off the grid, and it's set up unbelievably well.
Right.
I've been down there about 3 or 4 years ago, but you've done some expansion.
Oh yeah, we have probably, and we've looked, and my partner, and it's a one of a kind outdoor kitchen deck that lips over the Clark Fork. And we have
you're
surround chairs.
Literally right over the Clark Fork.
Yeah, we're like 25 feet above the Clark, and then we have a nice stoneway, custom-made path down there that's aesthetic. It's like you can't hardly see it. We have natural plants down there and whatnot, and it's about 3,900 square foot cabin.
It's a
lodge,
big lodge.
Yeah, it's not huge, but it's not the purpose. And we can sleep a lot more, but we want to keep it to 12 people at the most.
That's still a nice number of folks.
It is a great number.
And if folks want to stay at this lodge and do all that, do they go to the John Perry Fly Fishing?
Yeah, they go to that. Give me a call, or they can go on vrbo.com.
Okay.
Or airbnb.com. And there's a guy that's a former detective. It's actually my pastor now in Clinton Community Church. And
really?
He's a big, strong guy. He's a detective, a kind of a no-nonsense guy. And he's also a professional photographer, right? And he has one of those little flying devices.
Yeah, it's called a drone.
Yeah, he has a drone, and he took some awesome shots of it just yesterday, actually. Some more he took, and we already had good stuff. And he's going to put that out, but it is
a very special place.
It really is, guys.
So tell
very
me,
special.
When you go to Airbnb or VRBO and all that stuff, help me out. How do you find your lodge on that?
I haven't gone to look for it because I kind of know where it is.
But you would search, on those places for St. Regis, Montana, fishing lodges.
Either that. Well,
like
not just a fishing lodge. It's basically a lot of that. We push it, right, and for just families or small groups to go out, and if they want, God, they can call us. But we have fly fishing packages put together where we cover A through Z, and we have registered. A registered chef that comes in that loves the outdoors that we know, different chefs that'll come in.
So what's the phone number?
406-370-9183.
And the website that they can get some information on that is also johnperryflyfishing.com, isn't it?
Yeah, you'll see portions of the lodge on there.
Okay.
Best way that I can describe it is if you want to know when God comes to Montana to fish, that would be a place he would likely stay.
Yeah, but remember, God's everywhere, and he's there all the time.
Yeah.
And it's good to have, pastor and godly type people around, because they can kind of,
The official outfitter of God.
Yeah.
That's what John is. The official outfitter.
Let me
Pretty
tell you
stunning
what,
place.
briefly. So we live in a created world. So God has put a passion in my heart to share his creation with others. And this is what I do. I know a lot of people that come are high-powered men with power, right? But they're also kids at heart. So when they come out here, either they fly out in a jet or a private jet, or they come out, or if there's just a regular Joe Blow teacher that comes out, right? They come in their best mood, generally. I see the best of the best. And I'm not a drug guy and never was, and people always thought I was. But it's just because I've overdosed on Bugs Bunny when I was a young kid.
That's right.
And I
a lot of cartoons.
A lot of cartoons. But I tell you what, these guys get super goofy. They get just nothing's the limit. We laugh so hard in our campfire experiences at the lodge, right? After we fish, that is like, I wish we had recorders.
John, will you come back and visit with us down the road, down the river?
Yes, Captain. You guys ought to do this podcast from the lodge. Yeah, honestly,
we'll do that one of these days.
Because you have not seen that. Those
we'll come out
yet.
and do the podcast from there, and we'll get some pictures up on the website and all that, because that would be a lot of fun. And the neat thing I like about John is whether you're a movie star, and he deals with a lot of them, or
big celebrities
average
like Downrigger
Joe
Dale.
Blow, you're going to get treated the same. Which is with respect and love, and you're going to have a lot of fun.
And kindness,
Yeah. Well, here's the funny. I'll interrupt again, and I'm not a preacher, but listen to this. I love people, and I care for people, truly. And I have such a passion for the outdoors. And sure, I got lost coming here. I get lost in Missoula. I really do.
He's talking about where we're doing the podcast.
Yeah, I'm not lost in the rivers and the forests. You put me in a big city like Missoula, even though I don't like, can't find it on my phone.
I should have had like a Happy Meal in the front with a double ordered large of fries.
Well, I actually ate at Outback right before here. I got a good deal. I ate with it. I had a to-go thing. I put half of it in there. I didn't want to put it in the F-150, so I put it in the back because I know I have Princess Angel, my 4-year-old black lab, in the truck. I knew no matter what, she'd gobble that up. Oh, and by the way, I'll mention this. My daughter right now, she plays 16 instruments. Rivers is working for Alpine Kennels up in the mountains, right? But she also, works with them and trains the dogs. And she was trained by a dog trainer, international dog trainer, Mary All from Dogworks, under her tutelage, because her two daughters were River's best friends, and the older one, Cam, who's in the military, she was like her bigger sister. So she's training dogs and hunting dogs right now and loving it, and actually playing good classical music to them too. I mean, and that's soothing. So that's another God thing in my mind.
And the one thing that John will do for you, if you come from out of state or if you come just from eastern Montana, he'll give you the tour of the rivers and everything, and he'll also tell you where the Golden Corral used to be.
I ate it.
Not there anymore.
He ate the whole
thing. He ate them out of business.
Well, John Perry, we're going to have you back again, and thank you for spending so much time with us and really bringing us closer to some of the most special places in Montana. So, my friend, we'll see you soon.
I would like to say thank you very much, guys, and I want to say hello to Mike Metcalf at Sage Creek Cattle Company out there in the middle of Montana, in Moccasin, Montana. Okay. He's a great guy. Great guy.
All right. Thanks, John. Appreciate it, buddy.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks for listening, everyone. And we'll have another podcast coming up soon. And we'll be letting you know when next time John comes visit, because I know you're not going to want to miss that. Until then, have a great one and get out there and fish with the ones you love.
Thanks for listening to the Montana Outdoor Podcast. It has been brought to you in part by Superior Hardwoods of Montana, home of the largest selection of in-stock, high-end wood products and flooring in the western United States. Let them guide you through the woods at superior-hardwoods.com. And by Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer in Missoula, home of Boss Snowplows, CM Truck Beds, and Diamond Sea Trailers. Just go to RMTTE.com for more information. So what did you think of today's podcast? Send your questions and comments to Downrigger at MontanaOutdoor.com. We should be dropping a new podcast this next Saturday. Until then, we will see you soon out in Montana's great outdoors.